Support WrestleTalk!
Donate on Patreon.
Did Dolph Ziggler just return as a babyface? I'm Ollie Davis. This is Luke Owen. Welcome to WrestleRamble. And last night on SmackDown, after not much time away at all, Dolph Ziggler returned, air quotes for podcast listeners, to SmackDown to not really get involved in the storyline that he was involved in when he left, the storyline that everyone was interested in. And he left as a heel. Remember, he just dropped the US title belt that he'd won at the pay-per-view, surprisingly, at Clash of Champions the night before, and he just left the title in the ring and left, starting a tournament to crown a new US champion. Then he returned at number 30 in the Royal Rumble, and wasn't on the post-Rumble SmackDown show, but he was on this week's SmackDown show, where he had nothing to do with the US title. Instead, he took on Baron Corbin, kind of, for the chance to get added to the championship, the WWE Championship match at Fastlane. And it was different. He was kind of a babyface, I felt.
Yeah, first things first.
First things first.
First things first.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
And Happy Rusev Day.
Happy Rusev Day. But before we move on, I think dogs are fine.
Well, yeah, so this is controversial.
I just think I looked at the footage, and I did say that I hate dogs. Hate's a strong word, you know.
Why did you use it then? I'm just going to be the voice of all the dog lovers in the YouTube comments section.
It's hyperbole, I guess.
Just wanted to get a rise, you shock jock.
Maybe that's what it was. Like, I hate the main event scene of SmackDown at the moment, but hate's a very strong word. It doesn't make me like, it makes me physically angry. I just use that word. I think dogs are fine. They're just not for me.
What about all the stuff you said afterwards about drowning any dog you saw?
Oh yeah, but that's different though, isn't it?
While looking at it in its dead
absolutely,
eyes, you say.
Yeah. Well, that's just different though, isn't it? That's locker room talk, that.
So,
but anyway, back
what
to
about
Dolph?
What about Dolph?
Well, okay, so as I sort of alluded to there, I hate this main event scene. Like, this week's episode of SmackDown, it ticked me off a little bit in that...
Ticked you off?
We've been building the SmackDown Live division, the main events, really around AJ, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, Daniel Bryan, Shane McMahon. Like, that's been the storyline going into this, right? And then, as we kind of talked about on Monday, they randomly announced last week, oh, hey, Dolph Ziggler and Baron Corbin are having a match next week. Like, oh, okay, cool. Great, I guess. And then a couple of days later, Shane McMahon was like, oh yeah, by the way, the winner of those two, of that match, will be put into the championship match. And we're like, what two odd people to pick, considering that neither have any momentum and no one really cares about either of them. And that's not Dolph's fault. I hasten to add that is not Dolph's fault. I appreciate that he has his fans, but it's not like he has been on a real tear at the moment. As you sort of said there, had this really intriguing storyline of him relinquishing the United States Championship, leaving the company, and then just came back at the Royal Rumble, did nothing, and then was just back on SmackDown this week. And so it's just really odd then for you to say, like, oh, cool, yeah, so Dolph's back. Apparently he signed this new contract. Also, he's now in the main event going for the WWE Championship. Buries the United States Championship, means that Bobby Roode's win is completely worthless, which means that any feud that he has after that is completely worthless. And now he's just inserting...
I think you're in hyperbole territory again. It's not completely worthless, and it doesn't devalue it completely, but it's certainly not helpful.
It's certainly not helpful. And it's a really weird scenario that and like the whole show almost felt like built around him, and the promos that were on Raw for SmackDown Live were all built around Dolph Ziggler. So you're like, why is Dolph all of a sudden now your number 2 babyface? How did this happen?
Because they spent the cash.
They spent all this money on him.
Forked out the big bucks.
So funny. Tom Phillips on commentary said at the start of this show when Dolph was making his entrance, which by the way sucks.
Oh, it's completely wrong.
It's so rubbish, isn't it?
So you have a record scratch, and then Dolph comes out to silence, and then his music starts. That's not how record scratches work. You have the music, people pop, then you take the thing they like away from it with the record scratch and it's silent, then you can hear all the heat. You don't record scratch nothing. That's doing the punchline first. There's no setup. It's wrong.
But Dolph, as he was making his entrance, Tom Phillips, in just perfect WWE retconning history, was like, he was offered this WWE Championship match, and that's what brought him back to SmackDown Live. And I'm like, balderdash, mate. Absolute balderdash.
So there was so much of the perfect example here of just do it better.
Yeah.
WWE. This was stuff bad because you mentioned Shane McMahon on Thursday with just a tweet saying, yep, that Dolph Ziggler versus Baron Corbin match, the winner will enter the Fastlane main event, make it a 4-way. And first off, I understand that this is part of the larger storyline of Shane McMahon trying to one-up Bryan and Bryan trying to one-up McMahon, but don't tell that story on social media in a flippant tweet. Wouldn't it have been much more dramatically impactful and structurally for the show if you start this match and just before it's about to begin and the bell rings, Shane McMahon comes out, by the way, the winner will go to Fastlane to be added to the main event. Everyone's like, whoa! And then they start to face each other, and that's when Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn run down and beat them up. So what happened on SmackDown was it opened with Ziggler versus Corbin, this match. Ziggler's out there, they play Baron Corbin's music once, they play it twice, he still doesn't come out, and it cuts backstage, and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are beating the bejeebers out of Baron. Alistair Cole, Todd Phillips, and then they come down to beat up Dolph. And they do quite a cool bit where Sami Zayn goes through the crowd to cut off both bits. I appreciated that tactics. And KO and Sami beat up Dolph, then Baron came out, they beat him up some more, which is, that was fine. It took a long time for people to come out to stop this from happening. And then that's when Shane says Sami Zayn will face Dolph Ziggler and Baron Corbin will face Kevin Owens. If Ziggler or Corbin win, they will be added to the Fastlane main event. Now, first off, these 4 people are all heels. You've got the entire show built around heels, which is very problematic from a psychology standpoint. The crowd can't really invest themselves as much. It's not as easy to cheer, and you felt that, especially in the Owens-Corbin match, where it was very flat.
And they were chanting Rusev Day.
Yeah, and then you're telling the story of, but Baron and Ziggler were beaten down earlier, so you give them some empathy, even though they're the heel, they're, coming back from an injury. But even then, it still doesn't work. And they overcame the heels with the injury, which would be fine if it was not fine, but it would be much more forgivable if it was a babyface. But this just made the heels look bad, and it stopped the crowd fully getting into it. Plus, if Shane McMahon wanted to really stick it to Bryan and Sami and Kevin, he'd say, these matches, your place in the Fastlane main event is on the line.
Or just say they're both now in the main event of Fastlane.
Yeah.
Shane didn't need to put these two into matches to make that main event of Fastlane. He could have just said, because of Kevin and Sami's actions, both men are now going to be in the WWE Championship match in a fatal 5-way.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but that would mean the entire episode would have no dramatic suspense. It was lacking a lot anyway, but at least you were like, ooh, maybe one of the people I don't care about won't get in or win a match.
I said this in the SmackDown Live review, that this storyline is kind of fine. It's in that Shane McMahon, he's trying to one-up Daniel Bryan. He's not happy that Daniel Bryan has given Kevin and Sami this chance again, so he's trying to add in some of his own lads. Just don't do it with Ziggler and Corbin.
Yes.
Because they're 2 lads that no one cares about. Do it with Rusev. Do it with a member of the
Rusev,
New Day.
Of course. I was going to say Xavier Woods.
Xavier Woods would have been perfect in this spot. Because,
build him up.
Yeah, exactly. You could have and put him in a really big championship match. Because when the New Day came out, one of the most overacts in the company, everyone loves Rusev Day. So they would have been getting behind them during their matches with Owens and Zayn. But Corbin and Ziggler, it's Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. A great story you've been telling all year, just with the wrong guy. And this was a great story, or a good story you've told in a show.
It's a
fine story. Hyperbole, mate. You've told a fine story here on SmackDown, just with the wrong lads. And I think that's where it really falls down.
So there's an interesting bit in there about how they might be trying to make Ziggler the right lad, though. Because he came back as a heel with the record scratch stuff, and we left him as a heel. But throughout this show, I did get a sense of them trying to turn Ziggler semi-face.
Well, his promo was certainly a babyface promo.
Yeah, so backstage after Shane McMahon announced this later on, Renee Young interviewed him, and Dolph said, look, I was close to leaving, but I want the only thing that's eluded my career, and that is main eventing WrestleMania. And I sniggered. I was like, that's never going to happen. But I like it when people say this is the most important thing. I wish more people did that. Even though we know there's no chance of it happening, I appreciate the aspirations. What point was I making? I got distracted by WrestleMania.
Well, you were
sign.
You were talking about him possibly being a babyface and WWE trying to turn him babyface.
Yeah, so that was the start of it. And when he worked the match against Zayn, he was selling the neck. He definitely worked as a babyface there. At the end of the show, Dolph is celebrating on the announcer's table, he's like, yeah, look at me, show off. And everyone was cheering for him. And it did take me aback. I was like, people were genuinely cheering for him. Mm-hmm. And I thought, man, Dolph is good. The time's passed, unfortunately, for me.
Yeah, that's it.
And if they can make me feel what I used to feel for Dolph again, that's great. I just don't think they can.
Yeah, if you can try and recapture that magic from... 2012?
Mm-hmm.
So from 6 years ago, if you can try and recapture that magic from 6 years ago. And I don't think that's really possible now. Because here's the thing, like when Dolph was there saying like, oh, the only reason I'm back is that I want to main event WrestleMania. Like you, I was like, mate, you're not main eventing WrestleMania. Certainly not this year, and I doubt next year either. And then I suddenly thought, I was like, well, if he's not in these main event pictures, what is Dolph going to do at WrestleMania? Because if Dolph doesn't do anything at WrestleMania, then all of this doesn't seem like it's got any point behind it. So Dolph has to then have this killer feud to lead into WrestleMania, surely. If you're spending all of this time and energy trying to build him up as this, the number 2 babyface on the brand. I
don't know. I think SmackDown are just being like, we're just waiting for the next draft or the post-WrestleMania episode. Yeah, we're just going to do this for we don't really care about what storylines happen. It's very lazy.
It's just mad because you don't need to. Your Fastlane main event was perfectly fine being a triple threat. I know we've seen it and we saw it at the Royal Rumble and we're kind of done with this feud, but adding in Ziggler and Corbin hasn't exactly spiced it up. So you may as well. And do you know what I thought was the most baffling thing about this? No AJ on this show at all.
Yeah, no Nakamura.
Well, Nakamura's one thing. AJ Styles is in that main event of Fastlane. You'd think, of everyone, he'd have something to say about this. He was once in a triple threat. Now he's in a fatal 5-way. You'd think he'd be like, hang on, lads. You're taking the piss here now. I'm trying to get to WrestleMania here.
More importantly, he's number 1 on the SmackDown top 10. And he couldn't talk to people about that. So the actual match, though, Dolph did very well. I mean, this was a really solid match.
Yeah, it was a great match. It's just, it's hard to get invested in.
Exploder superplex. I just want to run through spots. Zigzag kick out, and then a haluva kick miss. There was a light, this is awesome chant. And then haluva kick runs into a super kick from Dolph, and Dolph wins.
Yeah.
I thought that was good. But should we do the whole SmackDown show now?
It's a SmackDown review, Maggle. I love it. We got us a flying Uso.
Charlotte beat Sarah Logan. What a predictable match.
After comfortably beating Liv Morgan last week, this was more competitive. But, yep, Charlotte quite easily defeated the member of the Riot Squad with her, 2 down, 1 to go. Only this time, Becky Lynch and Naomi are ringside. Becky Lynch and Naomi came down, and I did say, I think she's fine.
Yes.
I don't think she needs your backup at all.
No.
And lo and behold, she didn't. But guess what we've got next week?
Probably some singles feud with Charlotte facing someone else, right?
Oh, no,
Maybe
sorry.
Carmella. She's got the Money in the Bank briefcase.
No, sorry.
I don't know. You wouldn't want to make it too repetitive, would you?
No, I mean, I don't want to try and guide your guesses even more. But there are 3 members of the Riot Squad, and Charlotte's got 2 mates.
Whoa. They're going to do a 6-woman tag.
That's exactly right. A 6-woman tag.
Can't they just do an elimination chamber on Fastlane? Put these 6 women in it.
Yeah, so we're getting a 6-woman tag next week. I guess to prolong the long-awaited Charlotte Ruby Riot match that they've been building to. Maybe they're saving that for Fastlane.
That's what I assumed. I mean, the phrase "I could care less" is thrown around a lot these days, but I can't think of many things that apart from maybe IT recruitment that I genuinely care less about than this feud.
If we're going to go by rumours, the Lobo movie directed by Michael Bay.
Hey, at least that's something to get angry about. This is so disinteresting.
Well, apparently one of the rumours I heard...
we're not going to talk about Lobo.
No, we're not going to talk about Lobo. No,
I thought you were going to get sidetracked.
No, one of the rumours that I did hear, I think it might have been from Rovert. I think it was from him anyway, who said that expect in the next couple of weeks for Carmella to cash in Money in the Bank and beat Charlotte, and this could actually happen as of next week because Charlotte's going to be at Elimination Chamber to appear during the Ronda Rousey contract signing segment.
Right.
So maybe this might get interesting next week.
Maybe. It's just the Raw women's division is amazing right now. The last 2 weeks has been incredible. We'll talk about that later when we cover Raw. But like even the Mickie James Alexa Bliss stuff, which is the lowest tiered storyline, I'm intrigued by. This is your only and main women's storyline on SmackDown, and like I said, I couldn't care less.
It's going nowhere fast.
So next up we had Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan backstage. This was where Shane said that the matches between KO and Corbin and Ziggler and Sammy were going to happen. And Bryan was just like, yep.
He had no reaction.
No
reaction. He had 0 F's to give, as you might say.
And then Baron Corbin beat Kevin Owens. It was an okay match. But the crowd weren't into it because it was a heel versus heel, and Baron Corbin isn't really a heel that people can get behind as a babyface thing. Having said that, I've become such a fan of Baron Corbin's in-ring work in 2018.
Yeah, I like Baron Corbin.
I just like all these spots. I like when he runs down and runs around the turnbuckle. I like the end of days. I like the...
End of Days is a great finisher.
What's
Deep
the
Six?
Deep Six. I love the Deep Six.
Yeah.
So
I
I
think
like Baron.
Corbin is grand. He's absolutely fine. But you're right that like no one particularly cared about this match, which is a shame. You know, as I said earlier, it'd have been better if it was two other people. If it was Xavier Woods in this position, actually I'd preferred Xavier Woods against Zayn. But if you'd had Rusev in this position, different story.
What about KO looking a bit lame because he couldn't beat up Corbin, who had just because at least Dolph had pretty much the rest of the show to recover. This was very clear. This was one match after Corbin was beaten down backstage quite brutally. Owens couldn't overcome him with this, with quite a lofty stipulation on the line.
I didn't even think about that, but that's not great either, is it?
No.
Next up,
speaking of not great, Bobby Roode's US title open challenge.
I was gonna say, can we talk about easily the best segment on this whole show? I thought this segment ruled.
We're going there, are we?
I thought this segment ruled.
I thought it was passable, but it was all about top 10 lists.
Well, yeah, at least it's playing into character. That's a good thing. Like, if you're going to have this top 10 gimmick, at least have it, like, work within storylines. You may as well, like, rather than just announce it and be like, here's a top 10 list, and then never mention it again. At least this is a top 10 list, and characters are building stories off of it. That's fine with me.
Not good stories, though.
Why how's this not a good story? Like,
because it's about an arbitrary top 10 list.
Voted for, in kayfabe, by the boys backstage. Or boys and girls, I should say. So... You know, Bobby Roode is there for this United States Open Challenge. He talks about, like, last week where he was RKO'd from out of nowhere by Randy Orton. And he says, look, I'm doing this Open Challenge and I want to face someone. I want to fight someone face to face, not just be RKO'd from out of nowhere.
That was a nice line.
Yeah. And that brought out Randy Orton. Sorry, I've just knocked my headphone jack. So that brought out Randy Orton.
My name's not Jack. Why are you apologising to Jack?
I brought out Randy Orton, and Roode was really happy. He was like, "Yes, let's have this match." And the commentators were like, "Oh man, how lucky are we to get to see this match?" And then Jinder Mahal came out. Jinder Mahal interrupted, and he pointed at Randy and he said, "Randy, you're a 13-time world champion. You were a part of Legacy. You were a part of Evolution. You were the face of this company, and we voted you 9th out of 10." And Randy Orton's there and just like, and he's like, this guy here, pointing at Bobby Roode, like, he's been here 6 months and came 5th. And it was really good because Jinder Mahal was there just being like, ha ha ha, look at you coming ninth, what a complete loser, and making, and just trying to like rile up Randy Orton. Bobby Roode had the excellent line was like, mate, you didn't even place. And Jinder was incensed by all of this, and his reactions to this were just so wonderful because as a perfect heel. And I thought everyone in this segment was really great, and it's created this three-way dynamic for the United States Championship, all from the top 10 list.
It's, I do not care for the top 10 list. If you take that out of this, I think it's a better little trio thing.
But then why is Jinder trying to rile up Orton?
Just come up with something else.
Just do it better.
Having said that, I really, really admired Jinder's performance here. Like you said, he was just on his A game. It almost feels like the pressure of being forced into this main event spot where he must know he doesn't belong there. We all know he doesn't belong there. Everyone in that company knows he doesn't belong there. At least at that point in his career, because he was a jobber one week and then he was fighting for the title and then winning it the next.
Almost like Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, but here it's like, but at least Dolph Ziggler has a history. Jinder was a jobber for his entire career.
Absolutely, yeah.
But this, it's like the pressure's been taken off. This is how you should have organically built up Jinder. And he feels so at home here. He feels so right. And you know what? If you give him a US title run, if he's a solid mid-carder for the next year and a half, and then at a B pay-per-view before SummerSlam next year, he's getting a title shot, then I'm like, if he's as good as he is here, I'm like, yeah, give the guy a chance.
Yeah.
But that wasn't what happened. But yeah, I very much enjoyed Jinder here. I did not enjoy Bobby. I'm not enjoying this Bobby Roode. I don't like the smiling thing. Why would you be so cheery, happy? Ha ha, you RKO'd me last week. That's face to face. I respect the hell out of you though, man. I don't want to see that.
What he said was, I respect everything that you've done. And and which is fair enough. But he was like, but I'm sick of being RKO'd from out of nowhere, and I'm sick of seeing everyone RKO'd from out of nowhere. So that's like, Bobby wasn't saying like, ha ha ha, you RKO'd me from out of nowhere, bants.
No.
It was like, he had why he wanted to fight Randy Orton. He wanted to fight him face to face, like a man.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what works for Bobby's character. If you're going to make him, it's not an engaging character. If you make him a face,
an engaging character, I'm just arguing that it works for that character.
If you make him a face, at least have him be a badass. Do all those lines, just don't say, I respect you at the start, because then it doesn't give everything afterwards the weight. And the line he had about John Cena, where he's like, I'm going to emulate a great man for the US Open Challenge, John Cena. I was just like I agree that US Open Challenge era of Cena's career was really, really great. But just hearing Bobby Roode say it just smacked of insincerity, and I've been forced to say this. And the crowd, I loved how the crowd almost Pavlovian boo. There's a light smack boo. So I didn't like that. I enjoyed Jinder. I didn't like anything else about this.
I thought this was a great segment. And I thought that this was a great segment that actually put a bit of interest into the United States Championship, which is a good thing.
Shush! Because now we've got the New Day.
Are you going to say this was the best segment?
I am very much enjoying... I feel like American Beta, Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable have finally found their characters.
Yes.
It's not a main event tag team character yet, but they're not in that mix right now. So I think this is fine for a New Day feud. And I really enjoyed this. So New Day came out. It's Pancake Day. Of course it is. So they were... Big E was going to break the record for eating the most pancakes in 8 minutes.
It was disgusting to watch him try.
And he didn't even really get one. He just stuffed a load in his mouth when...
Corey was perfect, where he was like, he's not even eaten one.
Gable and Benjamin came out and said, look, we're serious wrestlers, and here you are doing this.
When I was training for the Olympics...
Great line. Really you can't have carbs like that, training for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Jinder Mahal must be having a hemorrhage backstage.
Yeah. It's weird because I don't know if this was a good segment. I honestly don't know if this was good. Because at the end of it, I really enjoyed the match that they had afterwards for the 5 minutes that they wrestled. But I was sort of watching the start of this and I was like... If my wife walked in now, and my brother was staying over as well, I was like, if my brother came in and saw me watching this, would I feel really embarrassed by this? And I think I would, because these are 5 grown men in the ring arguing about pancakes. And it's very silly. And, like, I love Chad Gable doing with his shush gimmick. It's my favourite thing on SmackDown. But, like, Shelton Benjamin, like, throwing pancakes on the floor and Big E getting really mad. I'm like, this is goofy as all hell. So, I'm not sure I like this.
I'm gonna read this out. I love it when inanimate objects get over as serious bits. I've literally written this in my notes. So I'm not going to disagree with anything you said, because I can totally see how you would. But I personally, this is fine material, fine comedy material, but the performers, in particular Woods, well, all of the New Day, and Gable, just made it, this, you couldn't have done this thing any better for me. And just the way they take a pancake and just throw it on the floor, and everyone sells it like a big thing. Like when Mitch the Plant and the jacket and the scarf with the Dean Ambrose.
Oh, you're talking about that really great Dean Ambrose-Chris Jericho feud.
Oh, come on. But I do like it when it just feels like ooh, when everyone knows it's not legit. But it did turn into something quite, not serious, but at least a bit competitive when Xavier quite, aptly reminded, we're the longest running tag team champions.
Easy to forget.
Yeah. Well, I was like, you were. But I liked it. And the match was pretty decent, as you said. Great rolling kick from Gable. I've never seen that before.
Well, him doing a rolling kick, he does it like every match.
Does he?
Yeah.
For some reason, it only got me there.
He does it in every match, but the most impressive thing in this match, aside from Big E's amazing hot tag comeback,
yes,
was the Chaos Theory suplex to Big E. Like, Chad Gable, man, what an athlete he is. Core strength. It was so awesome. Like, that was great. And it was like, I think I said this last week about, I can't remember who it was. I kind of talked about a team that I really liked. I was like, I hope we get to see this on pay-per-view where they have a lot of time to do this. So once again, I'd like to see this feud continue.
Was it the Ascension?
No, I think it was the Ascension. No. It might have been Chad Gable, But I'd like to see this on pay-per-view, given some time. I think this could be a fun little feud, particularly because the end of the match, the referee missed Chad Gable getting the tag to Shelton Benjamin because Xavier Woods was distracting the ref. So the New Day won, but they didn't win fairly. So that gives Gable and Benjamin shads and belts, as I've decided to call them now. No shads and gabes, to say, hey, you cheated last week. We're real athletes. We don't cheat.
It's a good way to continue the feud, but it is a finish that's been quite overused recently in tag matches on SmackDown. So,
like when?
Like when it happened to the Usos, like when it happened to American. In the Usos, like 3 weeks ago.
What happened?
So the Usos tagged, even though one of them wasn't the legal man.
Oh no, they pinned the wrong man.
Yeah.
Oh no, but it wasn't. I thought you were talking about like specifically, a member on the outside distracting the ref.
And not, I didn't like it. I thought it was a bit repetitive. But yes,
yeah.
I thought I was defending this segment. Why am I crashing it now? I feel like sometimes Luke's taking this position. I'm gonna crap on it.
The opposite.
Take him down. So Dolph next was with that Babyface backstage interview. Then we had Cammy. What have you done to me, Styles? Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
It did get over.
They had a bit of a shouting match because Owens got beaten by Corbin and Sami's like, you're letting me down. And I thought we were done with the tension last week. I don't want to see tension between these two.
They had a match last week.
I know, but I was kind of hoping they'd forget about it in the bad storytelling way WWE do.
I thought it was all part of their big master plan. But I'm starting to think now that there is no master plan and there is actually genuine tension between these two. And we possibly might be teasing these two having a WrestleMania match. 6 months after they got together, which would be just awful.
It's just they're such an engaging act when they're doing the overly friendly best friends forever thing. And you don't need to tease dissension. Putting that dissension element in there just makes them not an engaging act at all. And I love Kevin Owens, I love Sami Zayn. I don't want to see them like this. I don't find it interesting. So that's not good. However, now we have the best bit of the show.
Oh yeah, this was really, really great.
Over
and
to
actually,
you.
and I've watched this twice, and it is really seamless.
I don't know where they do the transition. Yeah.
I don't know if this was really impressive. So the Usos are backstage cutting one of their trademark great promos, and they're kind of doing this like weird sort of industrial area, this sort of smoke and stuff, and it just feels really gritty and different to everybody else.
They're
And
walking along as well,
Yeah.
which really makes the camera dynamic.
And they're just sort of talking about how great the Usos are and about how they're, welcoming people to the Uso penitentiary. And then all of a sudden, hammers smash the screen, and you're like, oh, it's a weird graphic thing. No, it pulls back. Turns out the Bludgeon Brothers were watching this on a TV screen that they've just destroyed, much like their old tag team partner Braun Strowman when he destroyed Kurt Angle's office.
Yeah.
It's that Wyatt family tease that they're all getting back together.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Renee did not like that.
no.
So they smashed this TV and then posed with their hammers and looked awesome because the Bludgeon Brothers are awesome.
So we're 3 weeks in now to this Usos Bludgeon Brothers teasing, and they've changed it up every week, and they haven't even addressed each other.
Yeah.
Like, they haven't said any words. The Bludgeon Brothers maybe haven't even looked at the Usos. This is good stuff.
This is
and it's
awesome.
just a little bit each. This is how you extend out a feud. You don't have them face each other every week. You keep them apart and then you bring them together. Keep them apart, bring them together. Loved it. I was so worried that Eric and Luke would say something after they'd smashed. I thought they were going to go, down is up, smashed is broken is fixed. And
or welcome to the Bludgeon Penitentiary.
yeah, please don't say anything. This is good. This is good. Just stay silent and looking mean. And to their credit, they didn't say a word.
I would love to see you do your versions of Bludgeon Brothers promos where it's just you saying absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
Haha, it's a Raw review looking jacked, man.
WWE Raw now opened with John Cena coming out right away, and he sort of did a hug with Coachman, and then he comes down to the ring and cuts an in-ring promo about how he's worried he won't have a WrestleMania match. And I know.
Yeah.
So his whole thing is, I've got to win the Elimination Chamber, and that's how I'm going to get my WrestleMania moment. Now, a lot of people have crapped on this, and I made a joke about it in my review, that you're John...
You crapped on it too, though.
Well, I just pointed out a bit of ridiculousness. John Cena, you're John Cena. You're going to have a match at WrestleMania, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, you are not Dolph Ziggler in this, where you think, well, you might get a WrestleMania match off this push. This is very much like no, you're having a WrestleMania match. You probably got one next year as well.
It's not like just a minor WrestleMania. You're going to be in a featured main event moment at WrestleMania. Or maybe just so shaken by SummerSlam against Baron Corbin, the Survivor Series cameo, Elias at the Royal Rumble. He's like, oh, maybe I am on my way out. But I see why people approach that with cynicism. However, I think it's a nice story. I like it. I want everyone on the card, like I said about Dolph Ziggler, to be wanting that WrestleMania match. Even, I want everyone to be chasing the top titles. Really gets over stuff as an important thing. Yep. Elimination Chamber felt like a really important concept on this show as well, with Seth Rollins saying he wants to be in on it and John Cena saying it here.
So are we thinking that Cena gets distracted by an Undertaker dong at Elimination Chamber, and that's what causes him to get eliminated?
I think, yes. So there was a line in Cena's promo where he said he's running through all the great things WrestleMania does, and then he says WrestleMania can bring a legend back from the dead. And I took that as the start, the third setup tease for an Undertaker thing, because he's made references like that in the past. I think that's good. Or maybe he loses Elimination Chamber. You tell the story just by himself, just by being a bit past it, and you tell the story of Cena is now out on his arse a bit, and he's like, I might miss out on my WrestleMania match. And he becomes a little bit despondent, and, how am I going to get it? And then The Undertaker shows up, like, I'm the one man you've never conquered at WrestleMania.
I was going to say, The Undertaker shows up and was like, sorry, mate, I'll have a match with you if you want.
Yeah, come on, buddy. It was only a little retirement last year.
I haven't got a match either, so should we have one together?
Yeah. So I like that story, and I don't mind if it's not believable.
Yeah, in kayfabe terms, Cena hasn't got a match at Mania yet. And if we're going to believe in the beautiful world of kayfabe, it is good.
Yes, yeah. So after all this, The Miz comes out and says, I think you've forgotten. This is the year of The Miz, and I'm going to beat you. And Cena challenges him to a match where it's like, the loser here will have to enter the Elimination Chamber first.
I think if I remember correctly in the promo, didn't he say like, hey, if we're going to talk about WrestleManias, let's not forget that I beat you at WrestleMania. What I wanted was John Cena to then say, I was like, yeah, and the following year you were in a multi-person tag match on Team Johnny versus Team Teddy, whereas I was in the main event against The Rock, and then I main evented the year following where I won the WWE Championship from The Rock. What were you doing?
Well, that would have trashed and really undermined The Miz's appeal. And he'd already done that by pointing out a guy in the front row saying, no, that guy over there is literally laughing at your chances of beating me and winning a main event in WrestleMania. Because Miz says, I'm going to go on to face Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
And yeah. So that I don't know how good that was. I don't like it when Cena does that.
You're not keen on when Cena literally says to people, oh, by the way, mate, you're rubbish.
Yeah.
And you're never main eventing WrestleMania ever again, just so you know. And we all know this.
Yeah. Because it's like, you can't have it both ways, John. You can't ask me to believe you're not going to get your WrestleMania match and then point out that everyone else is too rubbish to get your WrestleMania match. So they had this turned into oh my God, Kurt Angle.
Oh, poor old
I just remembered he was involved in this segment.
Once again, bad night for Kurt.
When is it not, unfortunately?
Dearie me.
Kurt Angle comes out to say he can hardly hear him because the crowd just want to chant, you suck. And, the old Kurt Angle, remember that? Remember when he came out? He's like, I'm only coming out if you don't chant, you suck. Mm-hmm. And he did that for like 7 minutes. And it always got better every time because... he'll come out and the crowd will just go for it even more. He worked them perfectly. It's so good. But that isn't... this is scripted Kurt Angle these days, not allowed to impro Kurt Angle, so he just comes out and says, tries to drown out the crowd himself with a match, and he said, this isn't how Raw's going to start. And then he makes the match. So it's like...
This is how Raw's going to start.
Yeah, so it is how Raw's going to start. I think he meant to say something about... Because Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas jumped John Cena... and then he ejected them from ringside.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. But it was a bit messy from old Kurt.
But Miz and John had a good match. Went a pretty decent amount of time as well.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Although
Miz, he locked in a sleeper hold for what felt like half the match.
Oh, I didn't
It was
mind
a
it.
long old time.
So the attitude adjustment is now not a finisher.
I literally written here, kick out of AA, Cena needs a new finish. Well, his new finish, I suppose, is as a top rope AA.
Or an avalanche AA, I think is the correct term. I've only recently found this out.
So it's a triple A.
Hey, a smaller battery.
I would really like to see, and this would be really interesting for Cena to debut a new finish, just out of nowhere, just hit a new finish and just start pinning people off that. And it's because the AA means nothing now. Like, people kick out of it left, right, and centre. It holds no weight. But if Cena was able to just start using a new finish and start getting that over instead,
like a hip toss.
Yeah,
based on how good the AA is.
Yeah,
something that's not bad.
Something that is really easy for Cena to do, and something that is so safe for people to take. Then that's Cena's perfect move, really. I
like the move where he powerbombs himself. I think it's a Hurricanrana. So John wins, and
for the record, I don't want that finish to be the springboard stunner because he was going to hurt someone.
My God,
remember when that was a little while?
That.
Oh, dearie me.
So this was a fine match, and afterwards Cena won. And I was a bit I was a bit sniffy on Cena, and then he gets out of the ring and he goes to a disabled child in the crowd and hugs him and says something in his ear and gives him his wristband, and then what a guy, shakes the hand of the mother and father of the boy. I was just like, God damn, how can you hate this guy sometimes?
What a wonderful man he is. A
like,
wonderful human being.
Snaps me out of my cynicism when I see stuff like that.
But a key point to this, which we actually haven't covered, is that the stipulation around this match was that the loser would be in the chamber first.
I did say that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Sorry,
but it's we can talk about it again.
Well... Thank you. Which doesn't seem like a really massive stipulation, considering that someone else has to be
that's
first
what
as well.
I thought.
There are two
or at least
And now it looks like there's going to be 3 people, so Miz being in first doesn't actually seem that bad anymore.
I think someone's going to just be strapped to the chains instead of an extra pod.
No, I want them to have a pod in the centre, so people have to work around it. A bit like in TNA when they did the barbed wire Christmas tree that was hanging in the centre of the ring.
So next up we had Woke and Matt Hardy cutting a promo saying the Elimination Chamber will be turned into the Deletion Chamber, and then he said delete for about 2 minutes.
Yep.
This was the first of many promos throughout the night for all the second chance people who were involved in the main event. Mm-hmm. Then we had the Revival beating Galanderson, but not before a promo with some new graphics, the Nerdometer.
They love their graphics at the moment. You are totally right on this. It's to make GIFs out of things. It's to make shareable content.
Yeah. I could do without it. And
this was better than the prison graphics on the Usos.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen much that's worse than the prison graphics.
Low bar, but at least it's a low bar everyone can get over.
Yeah. Rockstar with Nakamura is just is amazing compared to those prison ones.
And that really upset you.
So the Revival attacked Galanderson on the way down to the ring. They just sort of just did a normal punch to the back of Carl Anderson, but they did their favourite shot block to Luke Gallows' knee, and then they worked over Gallows' knee for the majority of the match, isolated him, and beat Carl Anderson with a shadow machine.
Yeah.
Like, this was solid wrestling. I just love watching the Revival wrestle, even if it is a very similar template every time. But that's their style.
Yeah.
I'm just worried that these guys are going to be stuck working with each other.
What if they are stuck with working each other and they have a match at the Elimination Chamber, but it's a number 1 contenders match? So there's actually some stipulation behind it. There's actually some reasoning behind it.
Forgot who the champions were then.
It was the Bar.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's awkward because I don't feel like Galanderson are over as heels or faces.
I don't know
They're over as Finn's henchmen or like valets because they don't even do any dirty work. And the Revival are heels, the Bar are heels.
They haven't got any other tag teams.
No,
in fact, it's Heath Slater and Rhino and Titus Worldwide, and they're both jobber teams.
Yeah. Well, that great Heath Slater and Rhino storyline that's fizzled out. God, look at SmackDown's tag division. You've got 2 really good You've got 2 solid storylines: Bludgeon Brothers, Usos, and Beta New Day, and then you've got Breezango and Ascension in the background as well. That's a solid division.
Doing stuff on WWE.com.
Yeah.
Heading to a pre-show near you.
It's like Raw got the women's division and SmackDown got the tag division.
Yeah. But this was a fine match.
Next up, we had
poor old Kurt Angle. Dearie me.
This was bad. Kurt came out and he announced that Ronda Rousey will be after forgetting everything and then mispronounce. So he forgets lines and he restarts the lines and then he mispronounces simple words. I think he called Seth 7 at one point. And it just wasn't good.
Probably confused. I think he was mixing Seth and Jason. Maybe that's what it was.
Who knows? But he said Ronda Rousey will be at Elimination Chamber to sign her Raw contract.
Yeah, which if this Carmella cash-in rumour is apparently true, does lead credence to it's not going to be the Rousey-Charlotte match at WrestleMania. And with Stephanie being on Raw, maybe it is going to be this tag match.
That's what I feel from it, at least.
Because you'd imagine Stephanie's going to be involved in the contract signing, and that would be a place where you to start this feud, I guess. I'm thinking this leaning towards the tag match.
Same. But Kurt also said that his son Jason Jordan will miss WrestleMania 34 because of a neck injury and his consequent surgery last Tuesday.
The crowd booed.
And the crowd cheered.
Well, the crowd
cheered that he was injured. And I saw a few people be sniffing, like, how dare the crowd cheer someone who's injured? And I thought, do they know he's injured? I liked it. I think, you're doing such a good job as a heel. The crowd are cheering the fact that you're injured.
Yeah, no, but I get that point as well. Of just like, you shouldn't really cheer that someone is missing their WrestleMania payday.
But it could easily, to someone who isn't in our bubble, that sounds like a storyline.
Yeah, but even so, okay.
I thought it was
I see both sides.
Yeah. And then Kurt, weirdly, like said, "Hey, don't boo Jordan. He's my son." I thought, God, is Kurt turning heel? Like, is that the start of a Kurt heel turn to fill in for Jordan?
Well, I was going to say, because when Seth came out, I suddenly thought, I was like, man, I wonder if they are going to start a Seth Kurt Angle program for WrestleMania.
Yeah. So Seth came out and he cut a pretty decent promo.
Yeah,
actually,
Seth was great here.
about how he wants to make Raw Monday Night Rollins again.
Yeah.
And he wants to be put in the chamber.
He doesn't want to just be part of Raw. He wants to be Raw. He wants to be the guy. I thought it was great stuff from Rollins.
And the way he was putting over the chamber, like, put me in there, please. I want to, win that and go on to WrestleMania. They really built up the chamber as something significant. I really liked that.
There was a moment, and I groaned out loud when Kurt Angle said, like, if you can find a tag team partner, you could face the bar. And I was like, oh, God, no, we're not doing this, are we? And then Seth, bless his heart, was like, mate, I'm past that.
Yeah.
No,
you're thinking of last week's script, Kurt. That's last week's script.
Oh, but then Kurt Angle did his favourite thing. He did the old Scott Hall trick of polling the fans. Did you come here to see the NWO or WCW? But the crowd chanted to put Seth into the match. Which again, like, I know it's a scripted thing, but it makes like zero sense because Rollins said, "Put me in the match tonight, and then if I win, I can go into the Elimination Chamber." And the crowd all started chanting yes. So then Kurt Angle was like, "Well, I don't know. I'm going to ask the crowd." Mate, the crowd already told you what they wanted. You don't need to ask them a second time.
Yeah, it's a bit campy for me. Maybe once every now and again, but he did it with Alexa Bliss last week about, should she defend the title in the Elimination Chamber. This is a reference that won't travel across to America, but it feels like a pantomime.
It's quite panto, isn't it?
Yeah, which is a British Christmas tradition where, I don't know, how would you describe it?
How would you describe panto? Panto is to farce. It is they do fairy tales. You do like Cinderella or Jack and the Beanstalk, but it's all about the crowd are kind of in on the farce. So we all
the kids aren't.
I suppose the kids,
but the
are,
adults,
yeah.
very tongue in cheek.
And we also we're in on the fact that it's a play, and the people on stage know it's a play. We as the audience know it's a play. And we kind of have involvement in that. So the bad guy will be sneaking up behind the protagonist. We as the audience have to shout because the protagonist will be going like, "Where's the bad guy? He's behind you." And then there's a lot of things like that.
Yeah. Next up, we had a Bray Wyatt promo ahead of the main event.
Spooky promo.
He said he'll win the Chamber for the second year in a row. And I was like, you won the Chamber, well done, Bray. Forgot about that, man.
His lone highlights from 2017 was being WWE Champion for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then we had Sasha Banks versus Bayley, which was pretty decent.
Of course it was.
I like this.
Should be to be expected. These two had a very good match. Really like Banks in her role here. Bayley as the hometown girl got got a great reaction. I thought this was some really good stuff. Like Bayley can do an amazing sell job of the bank statements. She's really, really great in that. Also during this match, Coach made a joke about the Corey Graves Booker T situation. When I think it was
I missed that.
Corey Graves, I think, was saying something about like, oh, Sasha says these sorts of things on Twitter, and Coach goes like, well, Corey, you of all people know that if it's said on Twitter or a podcast, then it must be real.
Nice,
good work, Coachman.
But yeah, the Bayley Banks stuff was good. And Banks was really working heel, but not full. That's what I loved about it. It was a very subtle heel, and she'd do. There was was it near the end? She went off into the corner and did sort of Bayley's taunt, where she waves her arms around and goes to run in, and then Bayley reversed that. So
good stuff.
This
good stuff all around.
This is like a really, really nice character piece, and it makes me excited to see where this feud's going to go. Finally, after 2 years almost of Bayley and Banks being
treading water,
sickly best friends,
and then another top rope move to finish off the match. Top rope Bayley to belly.
Was it
second rope?
Yeah. So they're about to either hug or fight. It was vague.
Vague. I like it. Yeah.
Ambiguous. That's what I was trying to say. You didn't know where it was going to go, and rather than blow it off right there, Nia Jax attacked them both.
So great.
Great way. And I was like, well, why is Nia doing this? And she beats them both up, and then she walks up the ramp, and Charlie Caruso asks an actually
interesting question.
Yeah, I was like, Nia's gonna deck you, Charlie. It was like, what gives you the right to interfere in that match?
It's great. Charlie was awesome here.
Yeah, and Nia pointed out those two women took Asuka to the limit over the last 2 weeks, and I just crushed them. And I was like, you have just not only, nicely made a cliffhanger out of one story, the Banks and Bailey, you have really nicely developed the Nia-Asuka feud. That's great storytelling. Really liked it.
Really liked it. I liked everything about this. And Nia debuting somewhat of a new look as well with her hair. It was nice.
Yeah, she ran it by me first. So it was good. Then we had Rollins and Reigns backstage.
Bringing up your favourite spot from the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, so they joked. They had some friendly... They had some friendly banter.
They did.
About Reigns eliminating Rollins from the Royal Rumble.
This was a segment. I mean, I've got very little to add on this. I just kept laughing as soon as they were joking about the Royal Rumble. I was like, "Ooh, Ollie's going to be mad about this."
Well, and then the bar came along, and I was like, no. They're going to have a little tag team bout. But actually, it ended up in a nice heavyweight clash between Reigns and Sheamus later on. Mm-hmm. Then we had a very good video package on Asuka.
This promo ruled.
Yes.
This was so good. Where has this video been? Like, since her debut on Raw, where has this video been?
Well, they care about the women's division now.
Oh, I suppose that's what it is. And Rousey's going to Raw, so you have to build it. That's why the SmackDown bloody women's division hasn't any build behind it. They don't care, but they have to do it on Raw.
It is crazy to see, like, the women's division pre-Rumble, the pre-Ronda Rousey era. It's not just pre-RR Royal Rumble, it's pre-Ronda Rousey too. And then the last 2 weeks, it's just a completely different show. And it shows that WWE, when they care, they can do very good, like, flesh out their divisions and storylines and feuds and tell intriguing tales.
When we keep saying, just do it better,
they have the ability to.
They know how to do it better.
They just, sometimes it seems like they don't care. Like, if they can do this at the drop of a hat, why don't they do it for all of it? They've got enough people working backstage in their writing team. And it's easy to joke, WWE writers, they don't know what they're doing. They probably all do. It's just there's a filter by the name of Vince McMahon, and we only get what he likes. And, sometimes he hits... I like what he likes. Mm-hmm. But,
sometimes I don't.
Yeah, sometimes I don't.
But this was an awesome video package. Really put Asuka over strong. Big fan of this. I would watch this again.
Yeah. Then we got the Titus Worldwide promo. Cruz can't lose.
Cruz can't lose,
Cruz
mate.
can't lose.
There was a brilliant moment. Like, Apollo's not the world's greatest promo, bless his heart. But there was a moment when, like, Titus was doing the interview. Like, he told Renee to, like, take some time off. He was going to pay for a vacation for her off Titus Worldwide's dime. Because Titus got loads of money because his clients obviously keep winning all the time. But... So he's there interviewing Apollo Crews, and he's kind of going through each person, saying like, "Hey, here's wrestler X," and then Apollo would do a line that kind of ties into their gimmick. Like he's like, "Oh, Bray Wyatt, he's the eater of worlds. I'm gonna eat him," or something ridiculous like that. It got to Seth Rollins, and he's like, "Seth Rollins gonna burn it down," and Apollo Crews goes, "I will extinguish his fire." I know, it was like he put the inflection on the wrong word. It's like, I will extinguish. Oh, no, but I've had 2 more words to say.
His fire.
His fire.
That's Kane verbiage. What eviscerate.
Oh, man. Do you know what? I was listening to a podcast where they were playing some of Kane's promos when he came back like for his feud with John Cena.
Yeah.
And that was when they were doing this big thing. It's like, Kane's going to come back as like the monster, the big red machine. Kane's going to have the mask again. And then the first thing he did was just sort of cut these promos on John Cena, where he's like, John, oh, John. And then I can't remember what it's Cena, but I was like, Cena, you have done these things that even I find disgusting. I'm a monster, but you are worse than I am. I was like, oh, this is why I completely turned off Kane.
Was that corporate Kane, or was that...
No, that was when he came back with the Rocketeer mask.
Right, yeah. Oh, so a while ago.
Yeah, it was
not
like
recently.
2012, I think it was.
Then, so after the those several video package and backstage skits bit, we had Alexa Bliss and Mickie James losing to Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville.
But we also had a backstage skit with them as well.
Did we?
Yes, they were.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And that's where they kind of announced that they were teaming tonight because Mickie James, once again, tried to get Biscuit Butter thing, and it didn't really work. But they sort of talked about, like, because Bliss was essentially apologising to Mickie, being like, hey, I said these things about you, but I apologise for those. We need to team up tonight. Again, Bliss trying to find friends within the Elimination Chamber to help her out, which should, in theory, pay off come the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, and I liked it because we all know that Alexa Bliss is not doing this genuinely, and Mickie James was not buying it.
Yeah, Mickie James knows as well.
Yeah, she's like, I'm not a stupid babyface. I know what you're doing here. We'll work together now, but when the time comes to it, I'm going to try and get your belt.
Yeah.
So that was well executed, and it just, the last few segments, you had a long Sasha Banks Bayley match, then you had the Rollins and Reigns, then you had the Asuka video package, Titus Worldwide, then you had another women's match. They are really devoting at least an hour of the show to the women, which is really good.
There was one more line in this Mickie promo, and I've written it here, and I can't remember the exact wording or how it was. Like,
you're a mother.
No, it wasn't that. It was like, I think she was like, if you're trying to get, like, if you think that I'm buying into what you're saying, she says, you are buttering the wrong biscuit.
Real people don't talk like that.
Yeah.
In the actual match, though, Rose beat Mickie, so Mandy Rose got the pin on Mickie James after Alexa was taken out on the apron by Sonya Deville.
Alexa Bliss, wonderful working as the fake babyface on them.
Yeah.
She was so great in this role, like proper cheering on Mickie James. I thought Bliss was great in this segment.
And then Alexa saved Mickie from the beatdown afterwards. Now...
Okay.
We've spoken about this, and
Yeah.
you said you didn't know where you fall on it.
Like the Big E pancake thing, I don't know where I stand on this because I laughed throughout this and I had such a great time. Like, at the opposite of the Big E thing, I thought this was so funny. I thought Elias was great. I thought Braun was great. And it was so entertaining. But at the end of it, I was like... But Braun is being very goofy, and it kind of diminishes him being a monster when he's acting there with his big double bass, snapping the strings and be like, I've snapped the strings, so I'm going to snap you. And it's like, I don't know, it's a bit goofy, it's a bit corny. But I will say, I laughed throughout. It was so funny.
I'm fully behind this. I'm not as... ambiguous as you are. First off, so Elias is down in the ring, and they've been building this up as him debuting a new song, The Chamber Blues, and he does his usual, what does WWE stand for? And the crowd go crazy. Walk with Elias. Did you hear the story about Elias and John Cena?
No.
So apparently, I can't remember where he told this, but it was on a podcast recently, that late last year, Elias goes, hey, John, like, I'm working on this thing where WWE stands for Walk with Elias. And Cena just goes, you've just blown my mind. You need to make something. And apparently Cena was like, of course! And that's why they went with it.
Nice.
Yeah, so we can thank Cena for this. I mean, it's so over. And Elias is so over in this act.
Yeah.
Did you see that? I'm on the Elias bandwagon, or the tour bus. Did you see his ride-along preview?
No.
I don't know if the full episode's up yet. It looks like it's just him in the back of a limo,
lovely.
and he's going from tour to tour.
Nice.
And he's just trashing people's hometowns. It's like, I've gone from this place to this place because this place stinks, but this place ain't much better.
Very nice.
So very much into Elias. But he's trashing San Jose, and the song is about, who still cheer him. Song's about that, and then he runs down each person he's going to face in the chamber. Of course, he's the last person in.
Certainly
so
is.
He's got something to be smug about. But then it would be JoJo, wouldn't it? Introduces Braun Strowman. And a light appears at the top of the stage, and Strowman's just sitting there. Not with the instrument at first. And I'm immediately like, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know I wanted this.
But I'm so in for it.
And then Braun doesn't say anything, stands up, walks, you cannot see anything in this darkness. And he comes back with, it's debated.
It's a double bass.
A double bass or a cello.
It's not a cello. It's a double bass.
They look so similar.
I know, but it's a double bass.
How
I'm
do you
telling
know?
you now, man. As soon as I saw it, I wrote down, it's a double bass.
But that doesn't make me... I mean, like, I'm not going to say it's definitely a cello or a double bass, but I wouldn't be so bold to say it's definitely a double bass.
I don't know, I haven't played a cello, but I'm pretty sure cello has thinner strings.
Okay.
And this did not have thin strings.
Okay. Well, anyway, he had a large guitar. He had a large string instrument.
Or as the coach said, the biggest guitar he's ever seen.
So he... Yeah, and then Strowman puts it between his legs, and I thought, he's not gonna sing. He's just gonna go down there and beat someone up, right? And then maybe flip the ring. No, he sung in his non-monster voice, like his normal... What's his real name? Adam Scher, something.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Braun Strowman, his real voice, and how he talks in all these like Vines and Instagram videos. And he had a pretty decent voice, and he looked so I don't know what, I was just enjoying him. He looked like he was having fun, but he wasn't having fun in the way where it's like goofy. Well, I guess it was goofy, but like where he was corpsing and smiling at the thing. He was having fun in a very good performance. And Elias occasionally went over the mic, no, like, which is really good as well. And then Braun walked down after breaking the strings, and he beat up Elias for a bit. And I was worried that the cello, double bass, whatever, wasn't going to come back into play, because I thought, that's a big weapon. But Braun got out the ring as Elias is crawling away.
When he swung that double bass over his shoulder, it just looked incredible. Because I was like, I wonder how he's going to carry that down to the ring. Just slung over his shoulder the same way that Elias carries his guitar. I was like, that's even better.
So what way would you hit someone with a double bass / cello? Would you hit them with the pointy string side or the flat-backed?
Well, that's the bit you're meant to hit them with.
But he hit Elias with the string side.
Did he really?
Yeah,
I just saw him just throw it down, and because it's so big, I was like, man, there must be so much momentum behind this thing.
Yeah.
I know it's gimmicked and everything, but it crashed down hard on him. It made a big old clattering sound. Yeah, as I said, I don't quite know where I sit on this segment, because I loved it. It really made me laugh. I loved Braun. I loved Elias. I loved everything about it, particularly as you mentioned there, him standing on the stall, walking into the shadows, and just the sight of him coming back with this huge... I'm just going to keep calling it double bass. Just walk back with this double bass just really made me chuckle. But... I don't know. Like, is it too much comedy for Braun? It's a bit like the cake thing.
I was going to bring up
it's like the cake thing. I laughed when he did the cake thing, but at the end of it, I'm like, should I be laughing at Braun Strowman?
So we talked about this yesterday, and my argument remains that, well, not argument, but because if you're like, this is too goofy for Braun, I totally understand that side of it.
I get it.
But I think that his style, because you brought up The Undertaker, you would never let The Undertaker do this. And I was like, well, The Undertaker is kind of a different level of monster. He's a supernatural, very somber, serious monster. Whereas Braun Strowman, the acts he's done is so comic book goofy and crazy. It's kind of like how you can have the Hulk in a comic book, and you can have him in a very tortured storyline where he's genuinely full of rage, and then the next comic he can be sipping martinis with Jeff Goldblum on a party planet, and it all kind of works, because at the core, people... I guess if you really want to flesh out a three-dimensional character, whereas wrestling, this isn't a bad thing, generally works on two-dimensional characters. People hear 2D and they think that's a bad thing, but actually 2D is like you've got two elements to a character. But like the three-dimensional ones are people who can be sad and happy and all the things in between. And that's kind of what I got from Braun, and that's, where the Hulk is so long-lasting and enduring. Yeah, I liked it. It was a mix of comedy and badassery.
Yeah, and I totally get that, and I certainly wouldn't say that you're wrong, or anyone who says that is wrong. But yeah, I don't know, maybe I like my monsters to be monsters, but then you're absolutely right. You said, I said, well, you wouldn't put The Undertaker in this position. And then I thought about, when Kane was a monster back in sort of 2002, and then he went backstage and did, the Kane-a-maniacs and things like that, when he was doing the stuff with Hulk Hogan. I'm like, well, he's now just a completely goofy, what a doofus. When doing the Kane-a-roon, he's like, he's no longer scary. But Kane can come back and be scary once again when he needs to be. And I think Braun's got that same thing. Braun can walk around and eat cake, and then he goes into the ring with Brock Lesnar, knees him in the face as hard as he can, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot Braun Strowman's really scary.
Yes, you should never do this with Brock Lesnar, for instance.
Yes, that's exactly right.
You should never do it with Undertaker. Kane, weirdly, he can work. Team Hell No.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah, but and you take him off telly for a few months, bring him back, he's a monster.
Yeah.
So next up
Just
we had...
when he's going, John, don't do that.
Yeah. Next up we have Finn Balor doing a promo backstage on his phone about the main event. Then we got the Roman Reigns Sheamus match, which was... I really enjoyed it, actually.
There was a line in commentary, I don't know who said it, who mentioned that Sheamus has main evented a WrestleMania. And I was racking my brain. I don't think he has.
Well, that sometimes when they say main event, though, they mean top 3 matches.
But I don't even think he's had a top 3... His match with Triple H.
WWE champion one year?
Yeah, I don't... But, he had a match with Triple H, and that might have been high up on the card.
Like 2009, 2010 time. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think he's ever, truly main evented a WrestleMania.
But there was some really nice counters here.
I'm hoping someone can prove me wrong.
Yeah. The spear into the white noise counter, I was a big fan of.
Yeah.
Cesaro distracted on the outside, sort of hopping up onto the barricade. And the finish was a spear on Sheamus coming off the top rope.
Yeah.
Why was Sheamus on the top rope in the first place? I mean, probably
double
axe handle.
Yeah. But
that was good.
What a shocker. Roman Reigns had a really good match.
Yeah. And Ivory is in the Hall of Fame.
Yep. And I'm so glad not only did they mention Glow, they mentioned Right to Censor, and they kind of tied it perfectly in this character story they were telling for Ivory, as if she was a character within WWE. I thought this was a wonderful video package, and they got some really great stuff out of that. Particularly, one of my favourite Ivory moments was her feud with Chyna, which got very silly because they broke her neck, but it was great for Ivory promos. She's standing there with the big Chyna standee. It's actually a bigger version of the Chyna standee we've got in the studio, and she's just going, "My friend Chyna." And I was just, she was so great in that role.
And then we got the main event of Seth Rollins and Finn Balor beating Apollo Crews, Bray Wyatt, and Matt Hardy with the winners being added to the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, some really good stuff in this. Although I particularly enjoyed Matt Hardy applauding Bray Wyatt while he was doing his crab walk gimmick. That was a nice spot. For me, the standout though was Apollo Crews. They really gave Apollo Crews a moment to shine where he was just doing all of his big flip-de-doos, and he didn't mess up one of them. So I thought Apollo did really well in this.
I thought, Apollo Crews really did. Have his moment that he had was really good. I actually came out liking Bray Wyatt, mostly because the Tower of Doom spot was happening. Everyone was getting together in the corner, ready to do some sort of powerbomb superplex combination, which is in no way realistic. But it always happens when it starts to get set up. It always gets hit. But then Bray Wyatt ran over and broke it up, and I thought, yes, I've never seen this move broken up. And the crowd were like, boo. Well, if it would have happened, they would have just gone, yeah. But because it got broken up, they felt really cheated out of it. Loved it.
Are you going to be excited for Bray's cut promo next week or have a match?
No, not that. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But and this had poetic justice in the finish because it was off that similar spot where Balor and Rollins double pinned Wyatt in that Tower of Doom thing.
Yeah, I thought it was really nice. There were some really great spots in this actually. The
good match all round.
Good match all round. I really liked Seth doing the double blockbuster, and then he went to Tope City where he was just doing all of his running Tope stuffs. There was a great spot where he did you had a twist of fate into a double foot stomp while Matt had the pin, and that led to a curb stomp on Finn Balor. Just it's a really great sort of series of moves. The way you should do these sort of multi-man schmoz matches, where it's you don't, you've got to have your head on a swivel, you don't know where the next person's coming from, and I thought they did all that stuff really, really well.
The only thing I'm going to nitpick, and it's weird, because I didn't really notice it until here. You had all the entrances, everyone came out, and then you had the ad break, and when we came back, it was all going on. And similar things happen all the time. It happened on SmackDown where we came back and the New Day American Beta match had got underway in the ad break. But this was so built up, this second chance saloon thing, and it had all the promos leading up to it throughout the night. I felt like they undersold it by not having the big ring introductions. This is for that, introducing each person in the corner, and then start it, and then after the initial big schmoz, then you go to break. I just weirdly, because it doesn't usually bother me, but here I was. It took me a while to get back in when we came back from break.
Yeah.
In fact, like if I miss even like the first minute of a film, I don't feel right for the rest of it.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. But yes, this was a good match, and we end on a cliffhanger.
Sort of.
No, yeah, it didn't really. No one really reacted.
We did end on a cliffhanger. Raw ended on a cliffhanger, and I've written here like show ends. Awesome. Can't wait for next week. Love it when a show ends on a cliffhanger like this, where you've got both Seth Rollins and Finn Balor arguing in the ring about like, hey, I won the match. No, I won the match. And you've got the commentators going like, who's going into the Elimination Chamber? And then you just check on social media and you're like, oh yeah, 10 minutes later, Kurt Angle announced on Facebook that both men are going in. I saw someone comment yesterday that made me chuckle. It's more chamber than ever.
Yes.
Which is an excellent tagline. And I was like, oh, well...
Why not save it? Why are you using this to push your Facebook page when you could use it to tell a really good week-to-week story?
And I get it, because WWE want to push their Facebook page. They want to get more likes. They want to drive more traction to that, as particularly if you're trying to get them on Facebook Watch or whatever it's called. Kind of get all that. But use that platform to have Kurt Angle saying, like, I'm going to make an announcement next week. I'm going to sit down, I've got to speak with Stephanie McMahon, and we're going to decide what's going to happen next week on Raw. So you have to tune in to Raw next week to find out the conclusion of this. Rather than just him going like, hi, I'm Kurt Angle, both of you are going into the chamber now. Because now there's zero intrigue into next week's show, which is a real shame, because you had that set up at the end.
So, Raw or SmackDown, who won in your opinion? There was probably an eye at some point near, like, a bit far away, because if we have it too close to the end, it doesn't appear.
And if it's not there, it's because you forgot.
Yes. So vote for who you think won Raw or SmackDown.
I think I'm going Raw.
Oh, without a doubt, Raw.
Yeah.
Come on, Raw was a really good show. SmackDown was not a good show.
Well, I know. There were some bits on SmackDown I really liked, and I liked the matches. I just think the story sucked. But yeah, I think I'm definitely going Raw this week.
I loved Raw. I thought this was the best Raw of the year so far.
Strong. Raw's been really great, though. This year, Raw has been really, really great. And actually, the tail end of last year, Raw was really great as well.
About 6-7 weeks in. Come on, let's keep it up. But yes, that's all we've got time for on this show. So click the videos that have just appeared on mine and Luke's laps to keep... I'm like Kurt Angle out here. To catch up with the latest WrestleTalk news or WrestleRamble. And subscribe to this show on YouTube. Subscribe to this show on the podcast and here on YouTube. Patreon. Support us there as well. This has been Luke Owen. I've been Ollie Davis. And that was Rambling.